Hey there, everybody. This is Carrie Hamblen, the CEO and president of the Las Cruces Green Chamber of Commerce, coming to you again with another one of our Zoom chats with one of our Green Chamber members, Tabitha Rossman of Tabitha Rossman Photography. And Tabitha, it is so great to see you in this Zoom chat and be able to uplift your amazing talents as a photographer. I'm so excited to be able to talk with you. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing fabulous. And, you and I met a couple of years ago when you were doing shoots for one of our local papers, the Las Cruces Bulletin. And I'm wondering, how did you get into professional photography? I'm a, like a lot of people, I like to take photos and have an actual camera, but there's a skill to it. There's a big skill about composition and lighting and all sorts of stuff. And we'll talk about that later. But how did you get into it?
So I actually got into it while I was doing a wildlife survey. A friend of mine told me what camera to get. And so in the middle of the survey, halfway when we got back, obviously, I was like, I'm going to order myself a camera. So I saved all summer and on my first internship and bought my very first camera.
And so what kind of camera do you shoot with?
I shoot with the Canon Rebel. Well, at the time I shot with the Canon Rebel. I now since got what you would consider a full frame, and then so now I shoot with the 60 series of the Canon.
Oh my. I used to be a Minolta fan until with 35 millimeter film, and then kicked and screamed before going to digital, and then finally bought a Canon as well that's digital and will never turn back. And so it's a lot of fun to be able to work with that. And so with that, during the pandemic, many businesses had to modify how they conducted business. And so what did you do to keep your business moving forward? I mean, when you're shooting people, you can be at a distance since you can be safe. But what did you do to help kind of adapt what you were doing?
Well, for starters, since I don't have a studio, I didn't have to worry about, the rent and everything. I ended up working from home because I also helped take care of my parents. And so now and then as people would book, we book online. We'd meet maybe once for the session, and we would stay social distancing. I'd tell my clients, look, if you're sick, please stay home. And then we'll reschedule, like you will not be penalized because you're not feeling well.
Right.
And that way they can that way they can we can just rebook when they feel better.
Right.
And try to get them in as soon as possible.
And and you had to do a lot of outside shooting, right?
Yeah. And so like stuff with like how the wind is, if the weather was bad, we would schedule, I'll just say, look, well, let's schedule it on a day that's better. Here in New Mexico, it can be a little bit challenging. And now I finally found a way kind of around that because I'm working with Southwest Expeditions. And so I'm doing photos inside their local jail.
Right, the old Doñana County Jail at the corner of Amador and Alameda, and so there's the big ballroom. I think it was on the second floor. That's gorgeous, with the wood floors and just some of the original work. And where else do you shoot in that building?
Mostly just downstairs because hauling camera equipment's a pain.
Yeah.
So I'll stick with the hallway, the stairwell, and then just the main hallway leading to the jail cells. And that's where I'm gonna start doing like your traditional 1920s, 1960s photo shoots. Ooh. All black and white. And so that way, it kind of like, because I know everybody was like, oh, right, roaring 20s. And it's like, and here's a pandemic.
Right. Well, in the jail cell, I mean, I'm hoping to get a Zoom chat with David with Southwest Expeditions because they do all the paranormal tours and all sorts of really exciting stuff. And so, but what a great building. I mean, it's just the historic element of it, but also just the theme. Are there more people who are going kind of more towards those vintage photographs?
I'm not quite sure yet. I'm gonna find out soon. I'm getting ready to wrap up my last model session on Sunday. and then I'm gonna start editing and kind of start throwing it out there in hopes that it takes. Because I know at the time, like I said, the Roaring Twenties thing was very in, and I'm hoping, even though it's 2022, it'll still take.
Little 100-year difference between those eras,
Right.
but yeah. Well, and the day that we're recording this is on Friday, when the wind is supposed to be really, really bad this afternoon. And so, it kind of leads me to my last question is, there are things where you bring to the photo shoot, and then you also ask other people to, your clients to bring to the photo shoot. What are, and this is the thing that I'm really curious about is, you're one of the few photographers I know that specializes in pet photography. But you do commercial shoots, you do LGBTQ events, and you do a whole lot more. And so what do you need to have happen to kind of prepare? I mean, we've talked about the weather, but to kind of prepare for those photo shoots so that they're really successful and that like your client gets like the best images possible from you.
So I usually will sit down and talk. Either, I guess in this case, I'll send them and we'll talk back and forth through email. I try to give them like a list of questions, like, well, what's your vision for the shoot? What are you looking for? How many digitals? What if are you wanting pets? Whatever, and then we kind of go from there. Especially if it's like events like weddings, I want them to hit their main points on what they want photographed, what they want to remember. And then I usually tell them when it's weddings, no photos, because I don't want, like, as I'm trying to get the shot, I don't need that. You would call it your Uncle Bob standing there with the cell phone, and I can't get, the nice, lovely shot with the couple in the center.
Right. I've seen too many botched wedding photos by somebody who's also wanted to get a picture of them going down the aisle. And just from my own experiences with weddings, I mean, it's really the weddings, beside the ceremony and the commitment, it's those photos that you really want, to be just perfect.
Yeah.
And so I can totally see that. I'm wondering, how do you go about photographing pets? Because they're not necessarily the easiest or most agreeable to what you want them to do. So what do you do?
So if they're not trained, I usually will have the owners hold the leash, and I'll just Photoshop the leash. And I can either do a studio shoot or have them do a local, like just like in town shoot. And what I do is, I apologize. I try to get the leash out of I'll Photoshop the leash out of the session. So that way it looks like he was off leash. And I kind of work some Photoshop magic into the mix, so that way it looks like those photos that you really want of your dog. So, and I try to capture their personality with the toys and the treats and everything. I just have to find what they like the most.
That takes a special skill, because that's pets and small children are kind of along the same boat, right? They're kind of in the same category. And it's all about the art of distraction and diversion, right?
Oh yeah, like you gotta have like the camera in one hand and your other hand doing something else while you're trying to get their attention. If I'm lucky, I'll have somebody stand behind me, especially if it's a couple and they're like, I really want shots of my dog. I'll have one stand behind me and I'll have the other hold the dog. That way I can capture their personality. Otherwise that can be somewhat of a challenge, but I find ways to make it happen.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my goodness. And so you also do commercial shoots. So tell me about those commercial shoots.
So I'm trying to get those started. So commercials covers like headshots. And so I've done headshots for the mayor of Las Cruces, as well as for in Mesilla. And I do stuff for their local fire department there in Mesilla. And so I'll take photos of their firefighters for their ID cards. When it comes to commercials for businesses, I'll take they can be like up to personal branding to businesses, because it's all pretty much the same, just a little slightly different, because you've got your personal branding, which focuses on the color scheme of your business, of who you want to represent, and then you've got your just the people who are like, I just need business photos to throw on a website. So I'll see what what their vision is for their site, and we'll take them out in town, and we'll go take photos in town with them for their website, or they can use it for Facebook ads.
Right. Well, and that's really kind of where we're kind of going right now is businesses being able to use those high resolution photos for their social media. And those can always be worked into a slideshow as well, correct?
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect. It sounds like you've got the patience of a saint when you can work with animals and kids and sometimes adults, you know, because sometimes they need it too. But I'm so glad that we're able to talk, and we're going to have Tabitha's information. If you are a business, or if you have a special event coming up, if you're getting married, or if you've got your fur babies that you want to have framed in a big photo on your wall, or just to highlight them, Tabitha is the person to contact. And we'll have all her contact information either above or below, depending on where you're looking at this. And you'll be able to get in touch with Tabitha as she continues to expand her business in southern New Mexico. And so, Tabitha, it's so great to talk with you. I hope to see you at our event that we're hoping to have at the end of the month at our Green Drinks, our first Green Drinks, back since we kind of went back into isolation a little bit. So hopefully we'll see you there. And thank you so much for talking with us today.
It was nice to be able to have this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you soon.
See ya.